Today on Nerdalific, we're going to look at which income should be used to cover each moderately flexible expense. Just a reminder to watch for the release of Nerdalific's Auto Budget ebook written by Tanya Stephenson, which should be released in the spring of 2021. In the previous videos in this playlist, we set up our budgeting worksheet in Excel, entered all of our expenses, and determined which incomes would be used to save for each of the fixed expenses. Now let's continue with the moderately flexible. What is the difference between fixed and moderately flexible? Fixed expenses are set amounts that do not generally change on a regular basis. These are amounts that you have no choice but to pay in that specific amount on those specific dates. A moderately flexible amount, there are different scenarios for this. The general thought process is the fact that this amount may or may not change as time goes on. It is next to impossible to set up a recurring payment in the exact same amount from month to month using your online banking. We do, however, need to save a set amount. Now, if you're looking at the Nerdalific Auto Budget ebook, this will go into a little bit further detail, but for simplicity, let's look at one at a time. Your heat or hydro, or a combination of both. If you've done your homework and you've looked at all of your history, you'll probably notice that this is not going to stay the same from month to month. There may be certain times during the year where this amount will be a lot more than what you usually pay on a monthly basis, most commonly near the beginning of the year. January or February range. This happens when the hydro company decides to come along and check out your meter reading and determines that you have used more than what they estimated you to use. Now, this is common when you are on a budget. Some hydro companies will allow their users to go on a budget, meaning they use historical data to figure out an estimated monthly usage, and therefore it'll balance between the summer and the winter months. It'll give you a steady payment which does not change until after the year is done. We're going to start by grouping all of our moderately flexible bills or payments into one little color. Today we are going to go with green. Now, similarly with the phone bill, if you go over your data, if you make long distance calls that are not inside of your plan, your amounts will change. Now, depending on where you live, you may or may not have a water bill, but it is very common to have a quarterly water bill. Now, as you can see, this one is set up as monthly, but I'm going to change this to quarterly. I'm not sure what I was thinking in the previous videos. So this is generally $130 to $150 quarterly, which is every 3 months. So instead of multiplying this by 12, we're going to go here into the total annual, which is in E14. We're going to go up to the formula bar, and we're going to change this 12 to a 4, because technically it is only 4 times a year, and that gives us a total annual amount of $520, not the amount it previously showed. My mistake. Again, if you have looked at the ebook, one of the goals with the Nerdalific Auto Budget is to set up multiple savings accounts for each category. Now, this category is utility. So these here are going to be grouped together in one savings amount. Now, if you get to a point where you do not have enough income left on a specific income to save the entire amount, you can split it up into multiple paychecks. However, it is a lot easier to group it together into one amount. Now, because of this, and of course I didn't plan in advance, I'm going to change this to a different color of green, so that we know that this credit card should not be saved in the same way. Now, I'll explain credit card debt shortly. So first, we're going to look at the amount. To see the amount, if you highlight all of the cells in that specific category, which you can see is grayed out on the left-hand side, 12, 13, and 14, these are the rows, and you go down to the bottom right-hand corner, the sum is $116.92. $116.92 is exactly what we need to save. So let's go back over to the budget sheet. Now, we don't have a whole lot coming out of income number 2 yet, so I'm going to recommend that we put this on income number 2. And of course, we're going to have to put in here utilities. As you can see, we now have $893 left in that specific income. Now let's go back to the planning page. We'll change these to the lighter green so that we know we have designated the income to cover this amount. Credit card debt is a special case. This is going to be a recurring bill payment. At no point should we take our savings amount and tuck it away in a different account. The payment amount should get sent to the credit card company as soon as we have it. Why? Because the sooner you make the payment, the less interest you'll have to pay in the long run. Now keep in mind that when you make a credit card payment or a bill payment of any kind out of your account, most financial institutions will charge you a fee. It is normally around the 50-cent marker. So whatever amount you decide to save for your credit card bill, make sure there's also enough to cover that 50-cent payment for every bill payment that you set up. Now, if $80 was our minimum monthly payment, I would suggest you go a little bit over that. $80 as a minimum payment is just enough to cover your fees as per the credit card company. It is not going to dig away the amount of debt that you have on that credit card. Now, if you're smart and you don't use your credit card very much, then you don't have to worry about that aspect of things as much. But if you ever plan to get out of debt and you ever plan to get your credit card balance down or close to zero, then I recommend you put a little bit extra on. $80 is just an example amount. So if we were looking at this credit card debt as $36.92 in a bi-weekly payment, I might want to even this out to a $40 payment, just for simplicity. So let's go back to the budget. Let's type in credit card so we know what the heck we're doing. Now, which income would you put this under? You could split it up to multiple incomes so that you have a regular flow going against your credit card debt. However, because of that 50-cent or a dollar fee or whatever it is at your financial institution, you might just want to stick with bi-weekly. So I am going to recommend we put it under income number 2. So now we are paying $40 bi-weekly and we still have a lot of money left. Whoever this fictional person is sitting actually fairly well financially. Now let's go back to the planning stage and change this amount to a dark green so that we know we have determined which income is going to cover that. Now again, we have bumped this up to $40, but I'm still going to leave it as is so that if your monthly payment goes up or if you decide to start putting more onto this, then it will automatically calculate the new data for you. Now, if you haven't noticed, this $36.92 times 2 is not going to equal $80. It is actually under the $80 mark. And therefore, if you stuck to this amount that this formula is calculating, you will vastly underpay your bill on an ongoing basis. Now, one other thing that I recommend doing is going back to your budget sheet and color matching between the fixed and moderately flexible amounts. Then you won't get confused. And voila! Now we can tell the difference between what is fixed and what is moderately flexible. In the next video, we're going to dig into the completely flexible amounts. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.